Hey folks, Richard Tubb here. Now, a tool that I've been using within my business a lot lately is Graphus, an email security tool. But rather than me describe the tool to you, the channel development manager for Graphus, Miles Walker, is here today to talk about it. Hey Miles, how you doing?
Doing good, Richard, doing good. Great to see you again. It's been a while.
It's been a little while. Look, really good to see you. So you're in Vancouver today.
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver. I wish, I know we caught up a few months back and I was planning a trip over to the UK. And sadly, COVID had other ideas, and it's still possible for March. So if we get to town, beer's on me.
I will look forward to that one. So I mentioned Graphus at the start as being email security tool. That's quite a broad brushstroke, though. How would you describe Graphus AI and what it does?
Yeah, well, we're an anti-phishing solution and focused on Office 365 and GSuite. And I'm taking a little bit of a different approach when I say what we do. What I like to say we do is we offer peace of mind. So when your clients are working or your MSP clients are working, they know that they're going to be protected from 99% of all phishing problems that are going to be hitting their inboxes.
Now, we've become familiar with anti-phishing technology, anti-spam technology, email security before. The reason that I use Graphus AI internally, and the reason that it's becoming so popular in the MSP field, though, is because it's not really an MX record redirector, is it, from a techie perspective? It's something a little bit different, and the AI actually means something. Tell us a little bit more about that side of things.
Yeah, well, no MX record changes. You don't have to set rules. That's a big one. And it starts operating right away. So if you have under a couple hundred inboxes, it usually takes between 5 minutes and an hour to get up and running. Obviously, I love to hear you're using the product. That's great. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the pipeline, a lot of new innovations, and we're excited. I'm not going to get into that today because we're going to let our PR and marketing team get into that. But yeah, I'm excited to chat.
So channel development manager, what does a typical day look like for you?
I like that question. No typical day. Well, right now it is 6:11 a.m. I think it's just after 2 p.m. in Old Blighty?
Just gone 2 p.m., yeah.
Okay, perfect. So today I was up early, obviously putting on my face, trying to look nice for you.
Looking good, mate, looking good.
I try. I got a little sweater on. It's a little cold here, I'm not going to lie. I hear it's 10 degrees in England. It's about -2 here in Vancouver, but the temperatures are going up, which I'm happy about.
Oh.
So typically, I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of events. Like last Thursday, for example, we did our Graphus quarterly business update, followed by I was on a panel with Robin Robbins, who is one of the sales and marketing experts in the industry. So I was on with about 7 or 8 other security experts who were so high level. It was unbelievable. I was like, wow. These people know a lot. And then I think I ended up the day we did a trivia event, and I was helping out IT Glue with a Trivia Masters event. So every day is different. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. There's meetings, there's events. I'm off to Orlando next week to do an opening talk for our new CISO, Jason Manar, who used to be the head of cybersecurity for the FBI. So I'm kind of the opening act, I guess you'd say, for his talk in Orlando to a whole bunch of clients. So every day is different, a lot of events. Sorry, long-winded answer.
No, not at all. Well, thank you for getting up early to chat to us about this. Rather than you and me talk about Graphus, can you share your screen and maybe we'll take a little bit of a look at what it looks like?
Yeah, let's do that. Here's the desktop version, and here's the mobile version. We obviously realize that a lot of the platforms out there don't look very similar on the mobile version. And now with hybrid working environments, people working from home, often they're sitting on their couch, they're watching their favorite TV show, they're doing their emails, and they're using their there we go. We're using your phone. So we've obviously updated the mobile version. You can see our employee shield banner, which comes up on any emails that actually look a little bit fishy, pardon the pun, of course. And then you can see the desktop version as well. And that's jumping into the performance metrics right there. So, but the big thing is you often won't see what Graphus is doing because it's using that AI technology in the back end. And it's going to work protecting you and your inboxes. But when you do see it, it pops up right here, and it actually allows you to see what type of phishing email is sent. So, for example, here's another version showing our employee shield. And it actually says the display name of the sender closely resembles a user's name in your organization. So it actually tells you what type of phishing email is hitting your inbox.
Yeah, and this is where it's so important. This is why I'm such a big fan, because I've worked with so many MSPs recently who have almost been caught out, and it's taken an eagle eye for them to actually say, there's something off about this email, because quite often what we're seeing, especially with spear phishing and targeted attacks, is the email address looks, or the domain looks so much like the original that the spammers, the cyber criminals, are relying on us being efficient and just moving through our emails really quickly. And that's where it happens. So what I love so much about Graphus is that you get this come up and say, hey, and this is where the AI kicks in, isn't it? It's saying this is out of the ordinary, or the slight difference that a computer could spot that perhaps humans couldn't.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if you look at that banner right there, it obviously came through from Vishal. And so with the AI technology, they would know that it hadn't actually been sent from Vishal's IP, because like you said, that's the AI technology. We look at about 50 different attributes, which creates a trust score, kind of like in certain countries, a credit score.
Sure.
And so then it allows that email to come through if it's safe, or it blocks it if it's not. So this one probably came through because it hit a lot of those factors, but then it realized, hey, there's something wrong with this, and it gives you the option to either report phishing or report a false positive. So yeah, that's a big part of the solution, and I love to talk about it, of course.
Yeah. So the first thing that I'll say is, we alluded to it earlier, but this isn't a traditional MX redirector tool. So traditionally, MSPs are used to redirecting their client's MX record in DNS. Yeah. We're getting real geeky real quickly here, but and then all the emails get filtered, and then the email gets delivered if it's safe and gets blocked if it doesn't. That's not the case here, though, is it? There's no MX redirecting. I've gone through the setup routine, but for anybody who's not, tell us how easy it is for this to work with Google Workspace, Gmail, or Office 365.
Yep. So, I mean, we would have our solutions managers hop on board, and they can onboard anybody, and it's rather quick. I mean, normally, if people agree to sign up, they usually get it set up within the week, depending on their schedule. And it is really, really efficient. Like I said, 5 minutes to an hour, and we're up and running, depending on the size of the organization. So, I mean, if we're going to look at something like a secure email gateway, we protect about 60% more than a secure email gateway. So how Graphus was kind of founded, our owners, Vishal and Manoj, saw that there was kind of a gap in the market. So people were using secure email gateways, but these phishing emails were still coming through. And the business has been around since, 2016. So what's that, 6 or 7 years now. And there was a gap in the market, and they thought, we need to do something to start protecting these inboxes. And secure email gateways, you set the rules and that's it. But things were coming through because these cyber criminals were getting smarter. They were evolving. Yeah. And still to this day, they're evolving so much. So we protect about 99% of phishing emails getting through. But as we know, these criminals are becoming more and more innovative, and things are getting through still. So that's why it's great to have something that's there, because the secure email gateways just haven't evolved as much as these new phishing solutions.
Yeah. Now, when I went through the onboarding, and we're a Google Workspace shop, although we talked about Graphus works with Microsoft 365, Office 365 as well, no DNS changes needed. It was literally when I went through the onboarding, and it was Vishal who did the onboarding for me, wasn't it? So I don't think we can...
I made a call, and I'm like, I want a white glove treatment on this one.
We can't promise the CEO of the company will do everybody's onboarding, but I perhaps I'm privileged in that case. Yeah. And it literally was a case of, going and authenticating Google against Graphus, and then that was pretty much it. It sort of went in the background, started parsing the history of the emails to see what was normal and what wasn't normal. And then we started to get emails highlighted to us that were a little bit suspect, but for the most part, it just sits there and carries on. What I specifically want to talk about though, Miles, is there's a lot of tools out there that are aimed at individual companies, IT departments. Managed service providers are a different breed, of course, because they have got dozens, if not hundreds, of clients with hundreds, if not thousands of endpoints there. So if, for instance, we can see on screen here, if this email was reported as phishing, how could the MSP track that? How can they keep on top of all the reports that are coming in from their clients?
Yeah, so when you go to the reporting, it's very easy to see this. So if you reported phishing, you could obviously go into a sandbox mode later and see where all those emails are. I like to say we can quarantine from anywhere, and we'll obviously protect you everywhere. So for example, especially for a company, I mean, in the UK, there's only one time zone. But I mean, in Canada, you know, everyone's awake in Toronto right now. They wake up and maybe they have an office in Vancouver where I'm based. So if they reported phishing, all those emails that are like that are in all the different inboxes will actually get pulled. So for companies that are working on different time zones, this is vital because it's so nice to know you wake up and you don't have to deal with anything. And I know we have clients all over the US, all over Canada, all over Europe, Asia, and Africa, and who work often in different time zones. And this is such a great tool to have because you actually help the solution get smarter with the AI technology. So, you know, by reporting a phishing email, now they realize, okay, this IP or this person who sent to Vishal or to myself or whoever it was, they realize that that's actually not an email that they want into the system. So that's the AI technology or the learning method, constantly learning and figuring out what to do next.
Yeah, and the machine learning is powerful. So the example we can see on screen, I know it's only a screenshot, but you can, and this is typically where people get caught. And what we've seen is instances, especially with ransomware and other things, where actually the cyber criminal has gained access to the client site and sat there for months and months and months. They don't take advantage immediately. And then they wait, and then they just send an innocuous email across and say, hey, Mr. Finance Director or Mrs. Finance Director, can you transfer this amount of money? And before you know, bang, it's getting caught. What Graphus does, it sits in between there. It looks for unusual activity. It looks at the text of the email and says, is this something that might be high risk? And we've found it's been super, super effective at catching things that perhaps the human eye might not catch.
Yeah, so true. I actually I don't go into the office very much. There's an office here in Vancouver, and I popped in on Friday, and I got the most incredible phishing email from Microsoft. And it was to the point, it was on my personal email, and it was to the point where I actually called everybody who was sitting in my area around, and I'm like, this is a perfect example of what a phishing email looks like. And it was really good. And I actually screenshotted it. And Hotmail, don't make fun, but I still use Hotmail for some of my personal emails. I'll admit it. I do have a Gmail, of course, but you know, I've had that Hotmail since 1998. And
we won't judge you, Miles. It's all cool.
Don't judge. But I've still got friends all over the world who know that email. It's super simple. After I tell you it, you're going to be like, oh, I'll remember that. It's contact Miles at Hotmail. And it was one of the first ones I got.
Very cool.
They actually now have a phishing button in their solution. So I think they were the first of the major email solutions to add this button. So they're trying to help themselves right now so that, you know, everybody's dealing with phishing emails. There's 325 billion emails sent each day. And so you hit that phishing button in Hotmail. So now next time that email comes in, it won't get to my inbox. And so I showed everyone this Microsoft email, and it was top notch. So well done, cyber criminals out there, because they are getting much smarter.
Really, like this, some come through recently for me, and I have almost clicked on them. And then something, now I'm, you know, you and I have been in the industry a while. We're sort of trained to it. You know, our antennas come up and we can pick up on things, but the average user is going to see something. And if we are struggling to see what the difference is, the end users are not going to stand a chance, really, which is where the tool comes in. I'm happy that we've got this tool, protects the rest of my team who are not as world weary, perhaps, as I am when it comes to cybersecurity and things. So it's dead simple to set up. It just sits there in the background and works. We've established that. If something did go wrong, though, and this is a question I like to ask, put myself in the shoes of an MSP, having been a former MSP myself, what does the technical support look like? How quickly can an MSP expect a response if they come across something they're unsure about or they need help from Graphus?
Yeah, so I mean, typically an hour to a few hours. I mean, sometimes it's even quicker than that. So we have a great tech team. They're ready to help. And to be honest, from what I've heard, there's not a lot of technical support except for the start, like when you're getting set up. That's the time when that takes the most time. And really, this is like your friend who works for you in the background. I always say, when you get Graphus as a solution, Graphus doesn't get sleepy. Graphus doesn't take long lunch breaks. Graphus doesn't get caught at work spending 2 hours looking at Instagram. So what Graphus does, it obviously works with a machine learning base, and it's working in the background while you're not. And that's the biggest thing when an MSP or any business takes on a new solution. They want to know that if they have to actually work on it, it's going to be quick and easy, and they don't have to spend hours implementing it and onboarding new clients. So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Now, one thing that has become apparent to me, especially over the pandemic, COVID-19, everything, and MSPs, of course, have been the heroes situation, keeping small businesses running. All of my research shows that most MSPs that I've been speaking to have been adding between 3 and 5 new tools to their stack every year. The reason I've asked Miles to join us today and brought this in front of you, Graphus, is I genuinely think this is going to be part of the next standard tool set. So if you want to, keep up with what competitors are doing and adding, this is going to be as standard as antivirus. It's going to be as standard as anti-spam. It's going to be that type of thing that's in there. With that said, Miles, when it comes to speaking to end users about this technology, how do you help MSPs to explain and to market this solution to end users?
Yeah, well, we have a program called Powered Services Pro, which is an add-on when you get any one of our business units, or business solutions, I guess you'd say. You can add on Powered Services Pro. And Powered Services Pro is an all-in-one marketing and sales tool, which is pretty incredible. It was probably the first one in the MSP world to get out there. Now, I'll just say a lot of competitors are trying to copy what we've done or use a similar format. So basically, we give you a platform that you can use and go sell to your MSP clients. So if you are an MSP, you've got some new clients, and you want to bring on this tool, we'll actually hop on calls with you. So that's a big one. So, I mean, we're the experts. So, say Richard, you've got Newcastle Brown Ale. Let's bring it all back home, okay? So you want to pitch Newcastle Brown Ale? We'll actually get on the call and talk to the IT team or the CISO or whoever's working at Newcastle Brown Ale and actually go through the system. I mean, we obviously know you like the product and you enjoy it, but do you know the ins and outs of it as well as one of our solutions engineers? Probably not.
Yeah.
We also give you marketing materials as well. We give you 29 marketing materials each month. We hear from MSPs that one of the biggest things they struggle with is having time to focus on their marketing or their sales. And we like to take that and say, here's all the tools you need. So we give you materials for MailChimp mailouts, for your webinars, for your LinkedIn, to help them push the product. And it's not just Graphus, it's all of our security products.
Yeah, makes sense. Let's talk logistics for a minute then. So we can see from your backdrop there that Graphus is now part of the Kaseya family. So that acquisition was 2021, I think it was.
2020. So,
2020, there you go. Yeah.
The reason I remember that is because that's when I got brought on, because they got brought on in the summer, and then within about a month and a half, I was hired, and they started expanding the team. Yeah. So they brought me on. I came over from the travel industry, which is very different. I've always been involved with tech. My parents are graphic designers, and it just was a really great fit, to be honest. I was looking for a change. I know still 2 years down the line, the travel industry still hasn't recovered, and it's going to be a long time, I think, until that gets back to the level it was before. And I had always been interested in tech. I have quite a few friends in tech, and the job kind of found me, and I got brought on. And just to give you an example, sales-wise, we're up 300%. I can't take all the credit, of course.
You can take a bit of the credit there.
Well, I mean, I'll take a little bit of the credit. So sales are up. It's been great. And you'd mentioned earlier, I think 2 questions ago, this is something that I think will be something that's going to be in everybody's lives moving forward. These cyber criminals are not going to be taking breaks. They realize that they can go after the low-hanging fruit. So a phishing solution is often now looked at as mandatory for some cyber insurance. So if a company wants cyber insurance, they're going to say, okay, what do you have for backup? What do you have for anti-phishing? And that's becoming kind of something that's needed for every business these days.
Yeah.
And when we first started Graphus, there was, one or two companies doing what we do, and now there's over 10. So, everyone sees that there's a market for this, and this is becoming phishing's the #1 vector where cyber criminals hit people. So
yeah, and for anybody who follows my channel, follows my work, you will know that I like to shine a light on products that I consider disruptive in a positive way for the industry. I'm also a huge fan. I think machine learning, AI, that whole genre has got so much to offer us in terms of cybersecurity, and that I think this is a great example. Another logistical question then. So Graphus now part of the Kaseya family, or has been for a little while now. Kaseya, of course, really MSP friendly. This is an MSP friendly platform. Is there a cost to becoming a Graphus partner?
Of course, yeah. We don't give the product away for free. So you're looking at a couple bucks for an inbox. Typically we work on different sizes, different companies. If you buy more inboxes, it's going to be cheaper. We always say that. This year, 2022, we've got some really competitive pricing. I don't jump into the weeds of the prices. But
totally understand. I wanted ballpark figures there. You've given us that. And to come on board as a Graphus partner, is there any barrier to entry there, or can somebody say, hey, yeah, we're an MSP, perhaps we already do business with Kaseya, or perhaps we don't? Can they come on board and take a look at Graphus immediately?
Of course, no barrier to entry. They just have to be using, they just have to be protecting against GSuite or Office 365.
Yeah.
Sorry, Google Workplace. I know that all the names have changed.
I'm exactly the same with it. Yeah.
And so they just have to start protecting against those. So if you use something else besides that, we don't have the capabilities yet. I'm not going to say that's not in the future, but right now, that's what we're focusing on.
Totally understand. Is there a free trial available for people who want to jump in and have a look?
Sadly, there's not right now, but I always say reach out to your solution specialist. The thing about Graphus is people always say, well, what about a free trial? And probably the biggest reason why we push back, it takes a while for our solutions managers to get up and running with each system. And you don't actually see what Graphus does often for several months. So a free 60-day trial or a free 30-day trial is often not what we want to do as a business, because, until you start seeing what we're doing for you in those monthly reports, 3 months down the line, if you say pulled the free trial or however you wanted to do it, the next day you get attacked, or the next day you get hacked. So this is a solution that we want people to start using right away, because it's going to start protecting them right away.
What type of IT companies are you seeing use this? Are they big? Are they small? Managed service providers, IT solution providers? Who's using this at the moment, you're seeing?
So a lot of small and medium-sized businesses are the ones we're really focusing on, which is kind of the MSP market. We do have some MME clients. I mean, if an MME comes to us and says, hey, we want to use your product, we're not going to turn them down. Most of the clients that we see have anywhere from 100 to 400 or 500 inboxes. So I guess that would be considered medium size in the UK. I know in Canada, it's about 100 people is considered small. Some people even say under 50 is considered small. But, it's everyone from a dental agency to a small marketing company to a tech business or a sales business. So we're seeing usually a couple hundred inboxes, but we can see a lot smaller ones. And we want to protect everybody, so it doesn't matter to us what size it is, to be honest. We're not getting Coca-Cola or Google calling us yet, but I've got some lofty goals for 2022, to be honest. Well,
if Newcastle Brown Ale give you a call, we'll know we're winning from this perspective.
I'm going to have to give you some commission. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
One thing I want to say, we discussed a little bit about pricing, about how to implement it. I speak to every MSP that's watching here today. I've asked the questions about pricing because I used to be an MSP, and I know that's what we think about. This is a product that I truly believe hits one of the core tenets of managed services, which is lowering your cost of support. So for any MSPs watching this, and if you've ever been hit with a service desk call from an end user who has clicked on a link that they really shouldn't have done, or the nightmare scenario, we can see on screen here, the financial director has made a transfer to somebody and then within minutes thought, is this legit? There's no way you're getting the money back. When it comes to MSP, when it comes to managed services, lowering your cost of support, this is worth its weight in gold. Like I said, I've deployed it internally within my team as well. I know lots of MSPs who have. Miles, to that point, we talked about it being a multi-tenanted platform. What other reporting features are available? Is it possible to give end users a view of what's going on from the reporting perspective?
There's an example right there. This shows our performance metrics. So it actually looks at the active accounts, the emails that have been processed, and total alerts. Why it's great, especially if you're an MSP, you can go each month and say, we've deployed this new solution, Graphus, for you, and this is what we're doing for you. So in the past month, for example, we've looked at 69 scams, 8 phishing attacks that we've thwarted, 2 executive spoofing accounts. And I mean, that's something, it says 2 right there. When you can go to Mike, who runs, a local business, and say, Mike, we've had 2 executive spoofing against you personally, that hits home. So often MSPs struggle with showing, why something is valuable. And we give it to you in the reporting, which is so easy to show. So, if they didn't have that solution in place, there would have been 2 attacks on Mike himself that he would have had to have figured out, are these legitimate or are they not? I always like to tell a story. In my last role before coming over to Graphus, I was actually sitting with the CEO of our travel company, and we actually were having a meeting when I got an executive spoofing email come through from him. And it was the end of November, and I know you've seen these Amazon emails come through, and it said, hey, Miles, I just wanted to thank everybody because of COVID. It's been a rough year, but I don't want this to go through finance. And I know finance, funnily enough, was run by his wife, okay? And he's like, I want to sidestep finance. I want to get everyone in the office a $100 gift certificate. There's only 9 of us in the business. And he's like, pay for it on your card and I'll pay you back at lunch. And I knew we were meeting up at lunch. So I was like, oh, that's so nice of him. And so I said to him, because I just happened to be with him in a meeting, and I said, that's really nice that you're doing that. And he, of course, said, well, what are you talking about? And I said, the Amazon gift cards. He's like, what are you talking about? I showed him the email. He was often out of the office because he was working in a hybrid environment. So he was only in 2 days a week. If it was a normal day, I would have probably clicked on the link and gone and bought those Amazon gift cards. It came from his email. It had his all of his information. It had his signature. And everything looked legit. It actually had his email. But Graphus would have picked that up because they would have realized it wasn't coming from his actual IP.
Yeah.
And I know it's a long-winded answer, but I did an event a couple weeks back in Vancouver, and I asked people who are MSPs to raise their hand if they'd had one of these, and 7 people raised their hand saying, I've had one of those emails. And I said, how many people end up paying? And 3 of the 7 who were MSPs, and this was in the last couple years, they said, had actually paid, and they'd all lost $1,000 because they'd all paid for those Amazon gift cards. So this is just one example that's often, seen in our world that's happening.
Yeah, this is the type of product that once you've got installed, you just can't do without, because once it saves you that very first time, you're like, yeah, I totally get this. So thank you for sharing that story. I want to make the point as well about the reporting features. The reason I asked is one of the nightmare scenarios for any MSP. And if you do the managed service thing well, you might face this situation where the client forgets the pain they experienced before you came on board, and they end up saying to you after 6 months, 12 months, whatever, everything's working fine. What is it we're paying you for? And that's why it's so important to use reporting tools like this to actually demonstrate to people, hey, here's what we're keeping you safe from. Here's all the work that we're doing in the background to prevent you from getting attacked. So I think it's super, super important. Miles, this has been really cool. Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for getting up so early to speak to me about Graphus. Again, it's a tool I really like. There are a raft of these type of tools coming on the market. You were the first to market. You are making an absolute splash in the MSP industry, and I can absolutely see why. It's really, really cool product.
Great stuff. Well, I really appreciate it, Richard. And if anyone wants to reach out, I will throw my my link for LinkedIn down there. My email is miles.walker@graphus.ai. Love to connect up. I haven't been, like I said, I haven't been to the UK in 2 years because of COVID, but I might be coming in March. I know you guys are opening up to the world. In
We are.
Canada, we're a little bit behind you guys, but we're making some moves still. But I would love to connect up with everybody. I post a lot of content on thought leadership. I get to interview a lot of thought leaders in the tech space and the security space, and would really love to connect with some of your viewers.
Well, let's hope we can share a Newcastle Brown Ale in the very near future, my friend.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Richard.
Thanks, everyone.